In the distant future, humanity has managed to expand across multiple star systems, but they still aren't a major power in the galaxy. Other, much more advanced alien civilizations dominate, and humans are often seen as secondary players in this vast cosmic arena. Despite their growing presence, humanity struggles to keep up with the technological and political might of the more powerful empires that have ruled the galaxy for centuries. The story takes place on a planet called Axiom Prime, a remote and war-torn colony at the very edge of human-controlled space. Life here is brutal. The planet is harsh, filled with deadly landscapes, and its people are constantly battling for survival. But despite its rough conditions, Axiom Prime is of critical importance. It sits near a mysterious ancient structure buried deep within the planet's surface, a relic from a long-forgotten civilization. This structure holds secrets that could change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Rumors suggest that the technology hidden there is far more advanced than anything the galaxy has ever seen. Whoever controls this technology could hold unimaginable power, and that's exactly why Axiom Prime has become a battlefield for control. Three major factions rule the galaxy, each with its own interests, and all of them are drawn to Axiom Prime for the potential of this ancient technology. First, there is the Hylian Ascendancy, a cold and calculating technocratic empire. They believe in absolute control through technological superiority. To them, everything is about manipulation and maintaining power through intelligence and strategy. They don't care who they have to crush to achieve their goals, as long as they come out on top. The Hylians are interested in the ancient structure on Axiom Prime because they believe it could give them the means to control time itself, making them the undisputed rulers of the galaxy. Then there's the Red Nexus, a militaristic alliance formed by bio-enhanced warriors from multiple species. The Nexus is all about strength, aggression, and domination through sheer force. Their soldiers are engineered for combat, enhanced with powerful biological modifications that make them nearly unbeatable in battle. To them, the technology on Axiom Prime is a weapon they could use to dominate the galaxy through brute force. They want to unlock its destructive potential and wield it as a tool of conquest. Finally, there are the Shattered Ones, a group of nomadic exiled civilizations that have been cast out from the galaxy's core by the more powerful factions. They live on the fringes of the galaxy, barely scraping by, but they're driven by a deep desire for revenge. The Shattered Ones see the technology on Axiom Prime as their chance to turn the tables on the factions that destroy their worlds. They are anarchic and chaotic, willing to do anything to strike back at those who wronged them, and they believe the ancient structure could be the key to their salvation. The tension between these three factions is thick, with each group determined to claim the hidden power for themselves. As they converge on Axiom Prime, the planet becomes the center of a galactic struggle. The people of Axiom Prime, caught between these massive powers, must fight to survive, even as humanity tries to carve out its place in a galaxy filled with enemies far more powerful than themselves. At the heart of this unfolding conflict is Captain Zara Hale, a tough, intelligent human commander leading a small and heavily damaged task force. Zara is not your typical hero. She's seen more than her fair share of war and loss, and her past is filled with dark secrets. She was once involved in a failed human uprising, something she rarely speaks of, but it's clear that it still haunts her. Zara is resourceful, able to think quickly under pressure, and she often bends the rules if it means keeping her crew alive. Despite her hardened exterior, she wrestles with difficult moral choices. She knows that protecting the ancient technology on Axiom Prime could save humanity, but the cost might be too great. As the leader, she bears the weight of every decision, and every life lost takes a piece of her. On the other side of the battlefield is Thane Argo, a mysterious alien mercenary with constantly shifting loyalties. Hired by the Red Nexus to help them secure the weapon hidden on Axiom Prime, Thane is not what he seems. His cool, detached demeanor hides a complex set of motivations, and it's never clear where his true loyalties lie. While he's fascinated by humanity's resilience and adaptability, he's also driven by his own personal vendetta, a secret mission that has nothing to do with the Nexus. Thane plays both sides carefully, offering help to Zara when it suits him, but always keeping an ace up his sleeve. His unpredictable nature keeps everyone on edge, never knowing if he's going to be a valuable ally or a dangerous enemy. Dr. Kayla Voss is the intellectual heart of the team, a brilliant human scientist who holds the key to unlocking the ancient weapon buried deep beneath Axiom Prime. Unlike Zara or Thane, Kayla is not a soldier. She's a thinker, constantly weighing the ethical consequences of her actions. She knows that the power inside the structure could alter the fate of the entire galaxy, but at what cost? Kayla is torn between her duty to unlock the weapon and her fear of what will happen if it falls into the wrong hands. Her inner conflict adds depth to her character, as she struggles with whether it's right to use a power no one fully understands. She wants to help humanity, but she's also terrified that she might be the one to unleash a nightmare. Standing against them all is Primarch Vekur, the ruthless and calculating leader of the Hylian Ascendancy. Vekur is cold, efficient, and utterly ruthless in his pursuit of power. He believes that the ancient technology on Axiom Prime could give the Hylians an unbeatable advantage, allowing them to control the entire galaxy. To Vekur, the end justifies the means, and he is willing to commit genocide if it ensures that the Hylians remain the dominant force. He is a master manipulator, always several steps ahead of his enemies, and his presence looms like a dark cloud over the entire story. Vekur's ultimate goal is to rewrite history using the power of the ancient weapon. And nothing, no moral concerns, no loss of life, will stop him from achieving that. Finally, there's the Watcher, an enigmatic artificial intelligence that has guarded the ancient structure for millennia. The Watcher is unlike any other AI. It seems to have its own motives, and they are as alien as they are mysterious. Its role is not simply to protect the weapon, but to test those who come seeking it. It communicates through cryptic warnings and challenges, always staying one step ahead of those who think they can outsmart it. The Watcher's true purpose remains unclear. Is it trying to prevent the use of the weapon, or does it have a more sinister agenda? No one can truly understand the Watcher, and its presence adds an extra layer of tension and unpredictability to the story. Each character has their own motivations, secrets, and inner struggles, and it's these personal conflicts that drive the story forward, keeping the audience on edge as they wonder how these complicated individuals will navigate the dangerous power struggle over Axiom Prime. On the barren, war-torn surface of Axiom Prime, a deadly struggle for survival was unfolding. The planet had once been a thriving colony, but years of relentless battles between rival factions had turned it into a wasteland. Broken cities lay in ruins, their towers toppled and streets littered with the debris of forgotten battles. The sky above was a constant, angry red, filled with swirling dust clouds that blocked out the sun and cast everything in a haunting glow. There was no peace here, only endless fighting, and now the stakes were higher than ever. Captain Zara Hale stood on the bridge of her command ship, staring grimly at the bleak planet below. Her fleet, once proud and strong, was now reduced to a handful of battered vessels. Zara's eyes narrowed as she reviewed the distress signal that had brought them to Axiom Prime. It had come from a hidden outpost deep in the planet's mountains, a place long forgotten by most of the galaxy. The message had been brief, almost cryptic, but the urgency in it was undeniable. Someone, something, was about to unlock a weapon of unimaginable power hidden beneath the planet's surface. If it fell into the wrong hands, it could reshape the entire galaxy. Zara's thoughts were interrupted as her communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we've just picked up multiple signals. The Hylian Ascendancy and Red Nexus are converging on the planet. They're not far behind us." Zara clenched her fists. The Hylian Ascendancy, a cold, calculating empire known for its ruthless efficiency, and the Red Nexus, a brutal alliance of bio-enhanced warriors, were two of the most powerful factions in the galaxy. If they were both interested in Axiom Prime, it meant one thing: The rumors about the ancient structure hidden beneath the planet were true. Both factions had likely discovered its existence and wanted its power for themselves. Zara knew her crew was outnumbered and outgunned. If they were to have any chance of success, they would need more than just weapons. They would need allies. At that moment, the ship's sensors picked up a new signal, an unidentified ship approaching fast. Zara's heart sank. Another enemy. But as the ship drew closer, she recognized it. It belonged to Thane Argo, the alien mercenary. Thane was notorious across the galaxy for playing both sides in conflicts like these, always working for the highest bidder. Zara had crossed paths with him before, and while she didn't trust him, she also knew he could be useful. His crew of skilled mercenaries might be just what she needed to tip the scales in her favor, even if it meant forming a dangerous and unstable alliance. Thane's voice crackled over the comms, smooth and mocking. "Captain Hale, it seems you've got yourself in quite a predicament. The Hylians and Red Nexus aren't going to take kindly to you sticking your nose into their business." Zara didn't flinch. "We're here for the same reason you are, Thane. There's something down there on Axiom Prime, something powerful, and I'm not letting it fall into the wrong hands. But we both know I don't have the firepower to hold them off alone. So, what do you say? Temporary truce?" There was a pause before Thane replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. "A truce? You, of all people, asking for help. This must be worse than I thought." "Very well, Captain. But know this, I'm not doing this out of the kindness of my heart. There will be a price." Zara knew there would be, but right now, survival was all that mattered. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. "We're forming an alliance with Thane's forces. We have no choice. Prepare for deployment." As Zara's fleet began to descend toward the planet's surface, the tension on board was palpable. They were walking into a war zone, and the outcome was far from certain. Below them, in the Rocky Mountains of Axiom Prime, a hidden outpost waited, one that held the key to a power beyond imagination. If they didn't secure it first, the galaxy would fall into chaos. Meanwhile, on the ground, Dr. Kayla Voss was deep in the heart of the hidden outpost. She had been studying the ancient structure for weeks, and what she had uncovered terrified her. It wasn't just a weapon, as the rumors had suggested. It was something much more dangerous, a gateway to an alternate dimension. The structure pulsed with strange energy that defied everything she understood about science. If activated, it could open a portal to a place beyond time and space, a place filled with unimaginable power. Kayla's hands shook as she tapped her findings into her datapad. She had to warn Zara. The galaxy wasn't ready for this. If the Hylians or Red Nexus got their hands on the gateway, they wouldn't hesitate to use it. They would harness its power to reshape the galaxy in their image, regardless of the consequences. And the consequences, Kayla knew, would be catastrophic. As Kayla prepared to send her report, alarms blared throughout the outpost. She looked up at the security feed and saw that it was already too late. The Hylians and Red Nexus were both closing in, their forces swarming toward the outpost. Kayla's heart raced. There was no time. She had to finish her work before they reached her. She quickly encrypted her data and sent it off to Zara's ship, hoping it would reach her in time. Back in the mountains, Zara's shuttle landed amidst the rocky terrain, dust kicking up around them. Thane's mercenaries arrived shortly after, their sleek black armor reflecting the harsh red sky. Zara and Thane exchanged a tense nod as their crews merged, moving quickly toward the entrance of the outpost. There was no time for pleasantries. They were about to face two of the most dangerous factions in the galaxy, and the clock was ticking. As they entered the outpost, Zora's wrist communicator beeped with a message from Dr. Voss. She quickly read the encrypted transmission, her eyes widening as she processed the information. "This isn't just a weapon," she muttered to herself. "It's a gateway to another dimension." Thane, standing beside her, raised an eyebrow. "A gateway? Interesting. That explains why everyone's so eager to get their hands on it." Zara shot him a sharp look. This is beyond anything we've ever seen before. If the Hylians or Nexus get control of it, they'll use it to rewrite the galaxy. We can't let that happen." Thane smirked. "Don't worry, Captain. I've got no interest in playing God, but I do like to get paid. So let's make sure we keep this little secret safe, shall we?" As they pushed deeper into the outpost, the tension grew. They could hear the sounds of distant battles echoing through the narrow corridors. The Hylian and Red Nexus forces were closing in, and it wouldn't be long before they breached the outpost's defenses. Suddenly, a low, ominous hum filled the air. Zara's pulse quickened. They had reached the heart of the ancient structure. In the center of the room stood the gateway itself, a massive, glowing archway that pulsed with strange, otherworldly energy. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, casting an eerie light across the chamber. Dr. Voss was already there, working furiously at the control panel. "Zara, we have to act fast. The gateway is unstable. If they activate it without understanding how it works, it could tear reality apart." Zara nodded, moving to stand beside Kayla. "We won't let that happen. We hold them off as long as we can. Just tell me what I need to do." Before Kayla could answer, the ground shook violently, and the door to the chamber exploded inward. Hylian soldiers poured into the room, weapons drawn, their leader towering at the front. Primarch Vecker himself. His cold, calculating eyes locked onto the gateway, ignoring Zara and her crew entirely. "Step aside," he commanded, his voice as sharp as a blade. "The future belongs to the Hylians." Zara stepped forward, her hand on her weapon. "Not if I can help it." The room erupted into chaos. Laser fire streaked across the chamber as Zara's forces clashed with the Hylians. Thane's mercenaries moved with precision, taking out Hylian soldiers with deadly efficiency, while Zara fought her way toward Vecker. She knew she couldn't let him get to the gateway. If he activated it, the consequences would be disastrous. As the battle raged on, the gateway pulsed even brighter, its energy swirling and crackling in the air. Dr. Voss frantically worked to stabilize it, her fingers flying over the controls. "Zara, we're running out of time. If we don't shut it down soon, it'll tear a hole in reality." Zara dodged a blast of energy, barely managing to avoid Vecker's lethal strike. "We're working on it, Kayla." But before they could act, the gateway flared to life. A brilliant, blinding light filled the room, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Zara's heart pounded as she looked up at the gateway, now fully active. Beyond it, she could see something. Another world, another reality. It was impossible to tell, but whatever it wasn't natural. Suddenly, the gateway began to pull everything toward it, like a vacuum sucking in the air. Debris, soldiers, and even parts of the outpost were dragged toward the glowing portal. Zara grabbed hold of the nearest console, struggling to stay grounded as the force intensified. Thane, holding on to a support beam nearby, looked over at Zara with a smirk. "Well, Captain, it seems like we've really opened a can of worms this time." Zara gritted her teeth, her mind racing. They had to shut down the gateway. But how? The Hylians were still fighting, and the Red Nexus forces were closing in fast. Time was running out, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. As the gateway's pull grew stronger, Dr. Voss made a desperate move. She reached into the control panel and activated an emergency shutdown sequence. The lights flickered, and the energy from the gateway began to waver. But it wasn't enough. Kayla's voice trembled as she called out to Zara, "I need more time. I can't do this alone." Zara, still struggling to hold her ground, shouted back, "We'll give you that time. Just hold on." The battle was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. The battle for Axiom Prime had only just begun. Zara's small team, outnumbered and outgunned, was forced to rely on guerrilla tactics to defend the planet against the superior forces of the Hylian Ascendancy. Every move was a calculated risk. Zara's troops hid in the shadows, striking quickly and then vanishing into the rocky terrain, using the desolate landscape of Axiom Prime to their advantage. They couldn't afford a direct confrontation with the Hylian forces. They were too powerful, their weapons too advanced. Zara knew that if they were to have any chance of holding the planet, they would need to be smarter, faster, and more resourceful than their enemies. Thane Argo's presence added a layer of uncertainty to the situation. Zara had made a temporary alliance with the alien mercenary, but she could never fully trust him. Thane was a master at playing both sides, and while he had agreed to help Zara for now, his true intentions were still unclear. Every time they coordinated a strike against the Hylian forces, Zara found herself wondering if Thane was truly on her side, or if he was simply biding his time, waiting for the moment when it would benefit him to betray her. His smirks, his cryptic comments, it was hard to tell if Thane was just enjoying the game, or if he had a hidden agenda. The tension between Zara and Thane was palpable. During one skirmish, Zara's team had managed to sabotage a Hylian supply line, cutting off their reinforcements and forcing them into a temporary retreat. Thane's mercenaries had been instrumental in the success of the mission, but as they regrouped in a hidden base, Zara noticed Thane studying a data pad. His eyes narrowed in concentration. "What are you looking at?" Zara asked, her voice edged with suspicion. Thane glanced up, a sly smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Just keeping track of our progress. You know, making sure we're on the right path." Zara's eyes narrowed. She didn't trust him, and she didn't like the way he always seemed to know more than he let on. "We're in this together for now, Thane. But don't forget who's in charge." Thane's smile widened. "Oh, I haven't forgotten, Captain. I'm just keeping my options open." Before Zara could respond, alarms blared through the base, and the ground shook beneath their feet. They were under attack. The Hylian forces had found them, and they were closing in fast. Zara's team scrambled to defend their position, but the Hylian soldiers were relentless, their advanced weaponry tearing through the rocky walls of the base with ease. Amidst the chaos, something strange began to happen. The air around them seemed to hum with energy, and a series of cryptic messages flashed across their communication screens. The messages were garbled, fragmented, and filled with symbols no one could understand. Zara's instincts told her it was the Watcher, the mysterious AI that guarded the ancient structure. It had begun to manipulate the battlefield, creating traps and obstacles that seemed designed to confuse and disorient both sides. Hylian soldiers would find themselves walking into ambushes that hadn't been there moments before, while Zara's team suddenly discovered hidden tunnels and escape routes that hadn't existed on their maps. "What is this?" Thane muttered as he ducked behind cover, narrowly avoiding a blast from a Hylian energy weapon. "The Watcher," Zara replied, her voice tense. "It's toying with us, controlling the battlefield." Thane frowned. "Great, just what we needed. An AI playing games with our lives." The Watcher's influence added a new level of danger to an already perilous situation. Zara and her team had no choice but to adapt, using the AI's unpredictable behavior to their advantage when they could and trying to avoid its traps when they couldn't. Every step they took brought them closer to the heart of the ancient structure, but it also brought them deeper into the Watcher's web of manipulation. Meanwhile, deep within the hidden outpost, Dr. Kayla Voss continued her work on deciphering the ancient technology. The more she studied the structure, the more disturbing her findings became. It wasn't just a weapon, as the rumors had suggested. It was far more dangerous. The ancient tech held the power to control time itself. With the right sequence of commands, it could open portals to alternate dimensions, allowing whoever wielded it to change the course of history. The implications were staggering. This was a power that could reshape the galaxy, rewriting the past and creating entirely new realities. Kayla's hands trembled as she entered the final sequence into the control console. The data she had uncovered confirmed her worst fears. The Hylian ascendancy wanted the technology not to protect their empire, but to alter history. They intended to use the gateway to erase their enemies from existence, rewriting the timeline so that the Hylians would become the sole rulers of the galaxy. It was genocide on a scale Kayla could hardly comprehend. But the Red Nexus was no better. They wanted to weaponize the tech, to harness its power to conquer and destroy. With it, they could unleash devastating attacks on entire star systems, wiping out civilizations in an instant. There would be no limits to the destruction they could cause. Kayla's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the full scope of the threat. If either faction gained control of the gateway, the galaxy as they knew it would be destroyed. She had to stop them. But how? The power contained within the structure was too immense, too dangerous. Even if Zara's team succeeded in defending the outpost, the moral question remained. Should they even try to use this technology? Or should they destroy it, ensuring that no one, not the Hylians, the Nexus, or even humanity, could wield such power? Kayla knew she couldn't make that decision alone. She needed to speak with Zara, but before she could send the transmission, a shadow fell over her. She looked up to see Thane Argo standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "You've figured it out, haven't you?" Thane said quietly, stepping into the room. Kayla nodded slowly. "This tech, it's more than a weapon. It can change everything." Thane's gaze darkened. "It's not just about power, Doctor. It's about revenge." Kayla frowned, confused. "Revenge? What are you talking about?" Thane sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My species, they were wiped out, erased from history by this same technology in an alternate timeline. The Hylians, they used it once before, long ago. They changed the timeline to ensure their dominance, and my people were the ones who paid the price." Kayla's eyes widened. "But if that's true, then—" Thane nodded. "That's why I'm here. I don't care about the Nexus or their plans. I want to destroy the Hylians and make sure this tech never falls into their hands again." Kayla's mind raced. Everything was more complicated than she had imagined. Thane wasn't just a mercenary. He had a personal stake in this, one rooted in a timeline no one else remembered. His agenda was driven by revenge, not profit, and that made him even more dangerous. Outside the outpost, the battle raged on. Zara's team continued their guerrilla warfare tactics, but the Hylian forces were relentless. Each skirmish took its toll, and Zara knew they couldn't hold out forever. As she fought alongside her soldiers, her mind kept drifting back to the information Kayla had sent her. The power to control time. It was too much for anyone to handle. If they didn't make the right choice, the galaxy would be plunged into chaos. As the fighting intensified, Zara found herself grappling with the moral dilemma at the heart of their mission. Should they use the technology to protect humanity, or should they destroy it to prevent anyone from using it for evil? The weight of the decision was crushing, and Zara wasn't sure what the right answer was. She had always been a soldier, following orders and doing what needed to be done. But this was something different. It wasn't just about winning a battle, it was about the future of the galaxy. In a rare moment of quiet, Zara stood at the edge of the outpost, looking out over the war-torn landscape of Axiom Prime. The distant sounds of gunfire echoed in her ears, and the red sky above seemed to pulse with the same energy as the ancient structure below. Everything was connected, the past, the present, and the future. And she was at the center of it all. Thane approached her, his expression serious. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" Zara didn't look at him. "About what?" "The choice you have to make," Thane replied, stepping closer. "Whether to use the tech or destroy it." Zara sighed, her shoulders heavy with the weight of responsibility. "I don't know if I'm the right person to make that decision." Thane's gaze softened, and for the first time, he seemed genuinely sincere. "No one is, but someone has to. And right now, that someone is you." Zora closed her eyes, the enormity of the situation crashing down on her. She had fought in countless battles, seen friends and enemies die, and made decisions that haunted her every day. But this was different. This was about the fate of the entire galaxy. As the sun began to set on Axiom Prime, casting long shadows over the battlefield, Zara knew that the time for hesitation was over. The final battle was coming, and with it, the answer to the question that had been plaguing her from the beginning. Would she fight to protect the Gateway and use its power to safeguard humanity? Or would she destroy it, ensuring that no one, not even herself, could wield the power of time? And in the back of her mind, one thought lingered. No matter what she chose, nothing would ever be the same again. The final moments on Axiom Prime were building up to a confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. All three factions, the Hylian Ascendancy, the Red Nexus, and Zara's battered forces, had converged on the ancient structure, each with their own agenda. The battle for control had been fierce, and now it was coming to a head. But what none of them realized was that the true challenge lay not in defeating their enemies, but in facing the mysterious Watcher Eye, the ancient guardian of the structure. As Zara stood at the entrance to the structure, her team weary and bruised from the relentless fighting, she felt the weight of everything on her shoulders. The gateway, pulsing with energy, loomed before them. Inside was a power capable of reshaping time and reality itself, and it was about to be unleashed. Thane Argo stood beside her, his face unreadable, his loyalty still in question. Zara knew he had his own reasons for being here, reasons he hadn't fully revealed. She had no choice but to keep him close, even though she wasn't sure whether he was friend or foe. The air inside the structure was thick with tension, almost electric. As the teams from each faction moved toward the heart of the ancient facility, the Watcher Eye suddenly activated, its voice echoing through the chamber like a ghostly whisper. You have come seeking power beyond your understanding. But power comes with a price. Only those who prove their worth may claim the prize. Zara tensed. She knew this was coming. The Watcher wasn't just going to hand over the technology. This was its final test, a test of wits, strategy, and more importantly, morality. The AI had been guarding the ancient technology for millennia, waiting for someone worthy to unlock its secrets. But its idea of worthiness wasn't clear. Was it looking for strength, intelligence, compassion? Zara didn't know. All she knew was that she had to pass, or the entire galaxy would be at risk. The other factions weren't going to make it easy. Primarch Vecker, the leader of the Hylian Ascendancy, was already positioning his troops, trying to outmaneuver Zora's forces. His cold, calculating eyes scanned the room, always thinking several steps ahead. He believed he was the only one worthy of the ancient technology, and he wasn't about to let anyone else take it from him. On the other side, the bio-enhanced warriors of the Red Nexus were gearing up for a full assault. They didn't care about the Watcher's tests or the consequences of unleashing the power. All they wanted was the technology, to use it as a weapon to dominate the galaxy. Their leader, a hulking brute named Commander Vron, growled orders to his troops, readying them for the final push. As Zara moved deeper into the structure, she received a message from Dr. Kayla Voss. The scientist had uncovered more about the ancient tech. It didn't just alter time, it could reshape reality itself. Zara, we're dealing with something far more dangerous than we thought. Kayla's voice crackled over the comm. If this power is unleashed, it could change everything. Past, present, and future. We need to be careful. Zara took a deep breath. Careful was something they didn't have the luxury of being right now. The enemy forces were closing in, and they needed to act fast. But what could she do? Destroy the tech? Use it? The moral weight of the decision was almost unbearable. She knew that whatever choice she made would have consequences far beyond this moment. The Watcher's voice echoed again, this time with more intensity. Only those who understand the burden of power may proceed. Choose wisely. Suddenly, the room began to shift. The walls, the floor, even the air itself seemed to ripple and distort. Zora blinked in confusion. This wasn't normal. And then, in a mind-bending twist, she realized what was happening. The technology was already starting to affect reality. She wasn't just seeing her surroundings change. She was seeing different versions of reality. The air around her shimmered like heat waves, and through the distortions, she caught glimpses of alternate versions of herself and her team. In one version, she saw herself as a conqueror, standing atop a pile of bodies, her eyes cold and emotionless. In another, she saw herself leading a peaceful coalition, the galaxy united under her leadership. And in yet another, she was broken, her forces shattered, and the galaxy in ruins. The gateway was warping time and reality, forcing them to face versions of themselves they never thought possible. Zara's heart raced as she realized what the Watcher was testing. It wasn't just about strength or intelligence. It was about who they would become if they had the power to control time and reality. Would they use it for good, or would it corrupt them, as it had corrupted so many others before? The battlefield became surreal. As Zara fought off the advancing Hylian and Nexus forces, the lines between reality blurred. Soldiers fired at enemies who weren't really there. Shots disappeared into thin air, and the ground shifted beneath their feet. Time itself seemed to loop in on itself. One moment, Zara was dodging laser fire, and the next, she was reliving that moment from a different angle. Amid the chaos, Zara found herself face to face with Thane Argo. But this wasn't the Thane she knew. This was an alternate version of him. His eyes were filled with pain and rage, and his voice was laced with bitterness. "You don't understand, Zara. This tech, it's the only way to fix what's been broken. I can save my people. I can undo the destruction." Zara hesitated. She had always suspected that Thane had a personal reason for being here, but now it was clear. In his timeline, his people had been wiped out by the same technology that they were fighting over now. He wanted revenge, not just on the Hylians, but on anyone who had used the tech to alter reality in the past. "I can't let you do that," Zara said quietly, raising her weapon. "If we use this tech, we're no better than the people who destroyed your world." Thane's face hardened. "Then you're leaving me no choice." In an instant, Thane attacked. The two fought fiercely, their movements fluid and precise, but neither gained the upper hand. As they clashed, the reality around them continued to shift, showing them glimpses of what could be. Versions of the future where Thane won, where Zara won, where they both lost. But in the midst of the chaos, Zara saw something else. She saw the path forward. She saw how to shut down the gateway, how to stop the tech from warping reality any further. It wasn't about fighting or winning. It was about sacrifice. She knew what she had to do. With one final move, Zora disarmed Thane and sprinted toward the gateway's control panel. As she reached it, she could feel the energy from the gateway pulling at her, distorting her vision, and making it hard to think clearly. But she pushed through, her fingers flying over the controls. She initiated the shutdown sequence. The Watcher's voice boomed through the structure. "You have chosen wisely. But remember, all choices come with consequences." Zora felt a sharp pang of guilt as the gateway's energy began to dissipate. She had won, but at what cost? The technology was shutting down, and with it, the power to control time and reality was slipping away. But she had done what was necessary. She had stopped the factions from using the tech to rewrite history. As the dust settled, Zara realized that her team had survived. The Hylian and Nexus forces were retreating, their leaders defeated. But something was wrong. As Zara tried to regroup with her soldiers, she felt a strange sensation in her chest, like something was pulling her away. She looked down at the controls and saw a flicker of light, one last remnant of the ancient tech, still active. Before she could react, she was engulfed in light. When Zara opened her eyes, she was no longer in the structure. She was somewhere else. The landscape was familiar yet alien, like a distorted version of Axiom Prime. The sky was a deep purple, and the air was filled with a strange hum. She was alone, stranded in a fractured version of reality. She touched her communicator, but there was no signal. She was cut off from her team, from the rest of the galaxy. And then she remembered. Thane. He had taken something from the structure, a shard of the technology. He had betrayed them all in the final moments, escaping with a piece of the ancient tech that could still alter the future. Zura stood, her resolve hardening. The battle wasn't over. She had stopped the immediate threat, but now, with Thane loose and armed with a fragment of the ancient technology, the real fight was just beginning. As she stared out at the surreal landscape before her, she knew one thing for certain. She would find her way back. And when she did, she would stop Thane from reshaping the future, no matter what it took. The fight for control over time wasn't over yet.